Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg with Cloudcast Media. You'll see another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades. Been doing great things for us people living in San Diego County. We are broadcasting from the very, very cool San Diego Humane Society, joined by Amanda, one of their wonderful workers here, and she's brought in Hank, the not a tortoise. What is Hank?
Red-eared flounder.
A red-eared. Okay, very good. How you doing? He does have red ears. That's very good. And Kristen Fogel, my co-host, is holding 2 puppies, right?
I do. I have Cafe con Leche and Suave.
Right.
Yes.
Very, very good. Joined today by one of my longtime friends and colleagues. He's a treasure in San Diego, and that's John Corcoran. He's the founder of the John Corcoran Foundation, joined by his board chair, Colleen Mertes. How you doing, everybody? Good?
Fantastic.
Good. Colleen, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful.
I'm glad to hear that over here. So I'm going to let you start us off while your dog eats the questionnaire. And
That sounds great. Yeah.
Ask John a question.
I'm so excited to have you. So I'm the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. So all things literary, literacy, all of the things. So I'm excited to have you. So just tell us a little bit about the mission of the organization.
We have been... I learned to read at the age of 48.
Wow.
And I met Drew. You know how long ago it was that I met you?
I think I had hair, and my IQ might have been above room temperature.
I think it's been 35 years.
Easy. Easy.
When you said 17 years, I said, well, I've known you for a long time.
You've known me for a long time.
And we've been passionate about literacy. And Drew, I met him on the board of the San Diego Council on Literacy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you asked me a question about the foundation. The foundation's mission is for me personally, and for the foundation, is to open doors for others. The awareness of the crisis in America of illiteracy, and offer some solutions to it. And that's what we've been doing for 25 years now, as far as the foundation is concerned.
That's incredible. Can you talk a little bit about your reading and literacy journey?
Well, learning how to read has changed my life and the direction of my life. After I've learned to read, I had this passion that if I could learn to read, other people could learn to read. And it's an act of love to teach a child how to read, an adult how to read, a teenager how to read. And so my own passion has been, and I've been involved in literacy since I was actually 6 years old, the day I walked into the schoolhouse. And by the time I was 8 years old, I ended up in the dumb row, and where the little boys and little girls struggled with reading and writing. And so I've been dealing with it as a teenager. And I also taught school for 17 years without knowing how to read.
Wow.
And so that kind of gave me some attention here. And I went to the public library here in Carlsbad under the umbrella of the San Diego Council on Literacy. And I learned to read. And adults that can't read don't believe they can learn to read. So it was it was just a miracle for me to learn to read. And then these people that work at these centers, they tell you it's a confidential issue. You know, you don't have to tell anybody anything or say anything. Well, they talked me into telling my story publicly. And once I started telling my own personal story, I got some attention. The story got some attention, and I was fully baptized into the mission of the San Diego Council on Literacy, and that's how I got here. Right now, today, we have some an exciting project that we've just been a part of. Is a documentary, The Truth About Reading. We just won a Tally Award for it, and we're going to have a screening here in the library, public library. What's the library? The main library?
The Central.
Central Library.
Right downtown. Right.
4:00.
4:30.
4:30.
But come early if you want. Parking is a challenge, so
Okay.
you know.
July 16th.
And that's July 16th.
Right.
And I think there's an open invitation. Check out with the San Diego Council on Literacy. They're hosting it. Excited about that. And this is the first screening here. But we have about 30 different. We've reached out at about 30 different nations now, and about just about all the states in our private screenings, and we're exciting. We're launching a national advertisement campaign this week, as a matter of fact, or next week. So we're excited about that project.
You know, whenever I interview John, he knows I'm going to ask this question because it's so important, and you can jump in it too, Colleen. And people who get to know John, want to hear his story. And obviously, the first question's up: how can you be a teacher and not know how to read? How did you mask that? So, how did you mask that?
Well, I learned how to navigate behind the enemy lines without knowing the language. And I say that enemy lines, that's
right.
The two worlds that I lived in.
Right.
It was, first of all, just getting through school. Yeah, you got to get to college. How did I get through elementary school? I got through elementary school pretty much by social promotion. That's going on today, very much.
Yeah.
If you behave yourself in high school today, you can get a diploma. And it was true, when I was in school. So getting through that, and I was as a teenager, up to my teenagers, there was rebellion, anger, frustration, and I had some athletic skills. And by the time I got to high school, I decided I was going to not be a delinquent anymore. I was expelled from school. I was suspended from school. I had all kinds of problems, the same problems that any person that's a teenager right now is having in their lives if they can't read.
Yeah.
The dominant language of the schoolhouse is, the written word.
Right.
And that's how you get success. And so getting to the answer to your question is like, how did I get through high school? I had some athletic skills. I had some social skills, and like I said, if you behave yourself, you're gonna be fine.
And in the classroom, as a teacher, he relied on the way he learned, which was auditorily, which was by video back then, TV and film. And so he did a lot of teaching, watching films with the student, and then oral participation was everything in his classroom. And even today in Oceanside, where he taught in Carlsbad, we run into former students who say he was their very favorite teacher, learned more, remembered more from those years in his classes, which were basically sociology, psychology, were very lent well to oral communication and group activities and things like that.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. We're chatting with John Corcoran. He's the founder of the John Corcoran Foundation, joined by his colleague, and even more than a colleague over here. Maybe we can explain, Colleen, the relationship. And she's the executive director, Colleen Mertes, of the foundation. As John mentioned, I've known John for a long time. He literally is a hero for many different reasons in this field of literacy. Shows how much courage you have to come out and admit there's a challenge, right? That's half the battle, John, and we all know that. But we can't help you if we don't know that you need help in this area. John's been involved with the Council on Literacy for a zillion years on this. You had a good relationship with First Lady Barbara Bush, I know, in that aspect of it. She was very much interested in literacy, and of course your story, to say the least, on this. Talk about, and you can jump in on this too, Colleen, the truth about reading. What truth are they talking about that is so important to get out in this film?
I would say there's a solution. That's the solution. And the documentary has it talks about the pain, the frustration, testimonies of adults that struggled and learned to read. And I would say the big thing is that we now know today that we can teach 97% of the population how to read. We, even 50 years ago, 25 years ago, we didn't think we could teach. We weren't talking about teaching dyslexics how to read.
Right.
So this is a big. If anything's positive has happened, a big positive thing that's happened in the last 25 years, I think, is that we've done the research. We know how to teach the human brain how to read. That's the good news, and so I think the film, and Colleen might be able to speak to the film better than I can because I was so involved in it, and we gathered experts across the country in the science of reading, and we offered up that's the story. The drama is there, the story is there, the passion is there, and the good news is that we can, with proper instruction, teach people how to read, write, and spell. This
no question.
One of the things that we need to do is quit blaming teachers and train them. And properly train them. And the universities have to do a better job of training teachers. So to solve any problem, you've got to articulate the problem. And I think that's what the foundation has been doing for 25 years via my story, to get the emotional piece in there. Colleen, what do you think about the movie?
Well, it's a great movie. I think that there's been talk about a movie about John's story for 25 years, 35 years.
Right.
And I think if the story would have been written 35 years ago, it would have been his own personal life, which is an amazing life. I'm pretty biased to it because John's my dad. And so I've, watched it all and lived it all and all that. So it is a great story. But the difference, or what's different about them doing the movie now, the truth about reading, is his story is one of the stories, but it's a much more global picture of the crisis in America right now. I mean, the statistics are outrageous. If anyone wants to just Google the literacy statistics in America, they'll be shocked if they don't already know. But it's a pretty sad situation. And so the movie really is able to focus on, like John said, the solution, and that there is a solution. And we don't need to accept this social promotion game. We do not need to accept, because the kids that grow up and they're not reading end up in one of a few places. Very depressed, with some addiction issues, in a prison, or just in living a life of chaos, jumping from job to job because they aren't able to stick with something. They aren't able to live to their potential.
Yeah, we come back from break. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. And again, John mentioned I was honored to be involved with the San Diego Council on Literacy. Of course, my big boss when I was at the Union Tribune was Helen Copley, who had co-founded the council in 1986 with then City Councilman Brian Bilbray in South County. And of course, John's been involved with all of this, and probably to an extent you have too, Colleen, on it, and still working hard with my very close friend, and Kristen has seen him in our Spotlight show many times, Jose Cruz, the CEO of the Council on Literacy. We come back from break. We're going to have more questions for both Colleen and for John. After this quick break from Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, doing great things in San Diego County. And we are just so honored to be broadcasting here at the San Diego Humane Society. We got 2 puppies sitting on Kristen's lap, my co-host, and we have Amanda here with Hank. And Hank is a very, very cool. Can I call him a turtle? Is that? Yeah, I can call him a turtle. Okay, very, very good. Not a tortoise, a turtle. We will be right back. That is look at that turtle.
It's really cool.
So cute.
So cool.
Run away from me a couple times.
So cute. Okay, you guys ready? We are back. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. We are broadcasting here at the San Diego Humane Society, their headquarters here on Gaines Street. And of course, they're all over the county. We got 2 puppies in the studio. We got a turtle in the studio. But equally important, I'm not saying more important, equally important, we got John Corcoran. He is the founder, and the John Corcoran Foundation, joined by his executive director, Colleen Mertes, his daughter, telling these great stories. John, as you know, I was honored when I ran community public relations for the Union Tribune to put on an event, very near and dear to your heart, was the Union Tribune Race for Literacy. And we'd run down I-63 and raise money for the council, on literacy. And I remember a lot of your colleagues, we would highlight them in the newspaper. Imagine you can't read and you can't read your prescriptions and all that. And, I was telling Jose, next time I'm going to do a talk about the council and about literacy, I'm going to have the audience close their eyes and I said, in 10 seconds, I want you to open your eyes and I'm going to tell you where you are in life. And I said, okay, open your eyes, you can't read. And the look on their faces was, well, how's that possible? I said, you can't read. Well, that stuff that's on that paper, you don't understand what it is. And they go, I can't imagine. I said, well, listen, people know, if you lose your hearing, okay, yeah. If you lose your eyesight, you can't read. Well, how am I going to survive in this absolute time of now these days, the internet and social media? I said, well, it's tough. That's why this film is so important for people. And I love the can-do attitude. Enough of this business that we can't solve it. It's just up to us to do that. So, John, what can our listeners do besides going to the film on the 16th of July at the Central Library? What can we do to support you?
I guess my dream would be that we really put literacy on the top of the priority list of education. We are not going to reform or improve the quality of education without a laser-like focus on teaching children, teens, and adults how to read. And that's the language of it. And the other piece of it, I'm looking across the aisle here, writing. Mm-hmm. I want to give a shout out for the writing piece of it, because after you learn how to read, you want to learn how to write, mm-hmm. And of course, you got a stumbling block there because you got to learn how to spell too. Right. But the good news is that we know how to do that now. Mm-hmm. And I think the piece of it is that nobody, it's such a noble and righteous cause mm-hmm. for America. And it's a civil rights and it's a human rights mm-hmm. that one of the things that we can actually do, we can accomplish this. We just really have to focus. And like I said earlier, to solve any problem, you have to articulate it. And we've got a crisis, and we've got solutions now. And I guess I want to say, as a dyslexic, and I never called myself a dyslexic, or I was never labeled a dyslexic. I just saw myself as an illiterate person. Mm-hmm. But I also was fortunate enough to have Pat Lindemood and a volunteer tutor I call my volunteer tutor from the Carlsbad Library the ambulance driver that got me to the clinic and got me the diagnostic tools that we have today. And that it's all there. If I got it, it's there. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's what I want to. Don't give up on yourself. It's never too late. Don't give up on your children. Your parents really have to be involved in this, mm-hmm. and they have to be aware of it, the problem, and to know and have the optimism and the hope that we can break this cycle of failure. And teaching a child to read is an act of love, mm-hmm. and we certainly need to love one another a bit more in this country.
Well, let me ask the writing expert, Kristen. I know your eyes lit up when you found out what this was to be about, because obviously reading and writing go hand in hand. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you were saying, John, it really is the great equalizer, right? Speaking to that civil rights sort of effort and everything, we have to be able to be on the same page and be able to convey our stories to, show that empathy, which is something that you're always talking about, Drew. That's how we best mm-hmm. get over these hurdles, is by first sharing our stories, and reading, writing as a pathway.
I'll interrupt you and just tell you how this. It's sort of natural to you, but the power of learning how to write.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so still amazing. And mm-hmm. I because I've learned to read and I'm comfortable with that, but knowing how to write, and it's hard work to write. Mm-hmm. And it's more than just reading and writing. It's the whole thought process. The world is open, and the technology is a completely different world. It doesn't turn me on mm-hmm. like reading and writing.
Yeah.
And when I can get something out of my scrambled head, that I sort it out and I write a sentence, mm-hmm. And I write a paragraph. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I'm glad you're out here.
Well, thank you. Likewise. And I really believe in that pen to paper connection too. I'm thankful for some of the technology, but part of me wishes it would just go away. But really, putting pen to paper, it does something for your brain, and it slows you down, and but also with handwriting coming back into the mix, I think that's really important too. Yeah.
One of the things, because I'm older, they taught penmanship in school. Mm-hmm. It's really an art form.
It is.
That's all it is.
I went to Catholic school. I learned the penmanship as well. Yeah.
You got the same treatment I got. So yeah. I had a pretty good, handwriting, mm-hmm. but it was all copied.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know what I was writing, or I didn't know what, and I could type 65 words a minute. Mm-hmm. I had eye-hand coordination, but I would type the instructions also. Anything on the page was open to me.
Right.
Some of those experiences, but it has been. It was so much fun learning how to read, and there's nothing like overcoming something that's been a boogeyman forever.
Absolutely.
And
I want to say something there. Drew, you were asking, what now or what, and he was saying, yes, laser focus. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I've been figuring out, and we're all touching on this, is the secrecy and the shame mm-hmm. is the biggest issue.
Absolutely.
So for a decade or so, I've been teaching adults, and I love teaching adults to read. The mm-hmm. freedom you see is it's insane. And one of the most rewarding things you can do is to watch that process of transformation. How we can, as readers or as, people who are just outside look, maybe not experience ourselves, one of the things that I think is powerful is to talk about the problem. I had someone, I'm a nurse, I had a caregiver I was working with. She was talking to me about something about her going to school, but oh my gosh, it's so hard. And I just straight out said, like, did you have a hard time reading, when you were young? And she said, yeah. And she was homeschooled, and she has like 6, siblings. And she said, my brother and I couldn't, but everybody else could. And I just started like, let's talk about this. Let's not keep it a shameful secret. And so I was able to share with her and just kind of say, let's let people know this isn't something to be ashamed of. It has nothing to do with their IQ. And if we can talk about it more, I think there's nothing wrong with that.
I would say it took me 10 years to recover after I learned to read, is to peel back that shame and that blame. And we have a good reason to be embarrassed and shame. I end up in the dumb row. You're 8 years old. I went to school at 6. My mother and father told me I was a winner for the first 6 years of my life. I get to school, and I end up in the dumb row, and I get the message. I mean, the teachers didn't call it the dumb row, but all of us kids knew who was the dumb guys and the smart guys. And I think also the shame and the blame is it's a form of child neglect, not to teach children to read, and that comes with and we get the blame. And we're changing that just a little bit right now. And every time I say there's a solution, what we have to do, maybe it wasn't learning disability. Maybe it was teaching disability. Maybe we all have to work on this. Maybe we need to articulate and continue to articulate. But I want to see results. I mean, we are ready to get the results, and I think that's one of the things that excites me a bit right now. And the technology is helping a lot, in terms of educating. And the other thing I think that Colleen was saying, that you can find this problem in almost every problem, every family. Somebody has trouble, and you got 3 little kids that are reading, and like Superman, and there's one little guy that can't get it, doesn't get it. And I think that's where we have to, I think we can talk the problem to death also. I think I've been talking it to death. And I'm tired of it. I want to see the results. I want to see solutions. And they're within our reach now. That's exactly. And our film is part of that.
Well, listen, July 16, the film, The Truth About Reading. How do they get a hold of you, Colleen? What's the website for the foundation?
John Corcoran Foundation.com. .org.
Check out the Facebook, too.
Take Facebook and the foundation and so forth. And we always love having John on and the Council on Literacy, and wishing you nothing but great success. July 16, are you going to swing by, do you think?
I'd like to, and I actually just had a quick follow-up, is if you can't make it that date, is there another way that you can view the film?
Yes, it's actually up on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
Now you can get it there. There's lots of ways to get it now.
Where you can get it in a week.
Okay.
Go out there.
All right. So
you may even go on TikTok.
I don't know how to do that, but that's.
He doesn't know what
TikTok
I don't.
Yeah. I've never been on TikTok. I don't know. I don't know.
People are talking about stuff.
all right. Well, listen. Anyway,
Short film.
definitely go to the John Corcoran Foundation. John, it's always great to see you. You are a San Diego treasure. Colleen, it's nice seeing you again as well. Thank you for what you are doing for this absolutely crisis that we've had for many years in our country. And if you close your eyes, it doesn't go away. You better deal with it head on. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We're brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, doing great things, broadcasting in the very, very cool San Diego. Humane Society headquarters, joined by Hank the Turtle and Amanda. Thank you so much for bringing Hank in, and 2 very, very cute puppies that have been sitting in Kristen's lap. I don't think she's going to let
I just wake them up every half hour. Every half hour, we go outside, we take a picture, they come back, they fall asleep.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. They're going to be searching you when you try to leave this place to make sure you're not sneaking these 2 puppies out.
I know.
So I hope you enjoyed the interview. Thank you so very, very much.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.